Okay. Yeah, I'd like to invite, say how you for the village board meeting, 7 o'clock, Monday, May 9th, 2022. Of silent cell phones, of a roll call of officers.
We have Pete Unzia, Roseanne Guy, Don Gotcher, Rose Sowers, and Dan Moulton.
Open meeting law compliance check.
We are compliant.
Could we all please stand for a pledge of allegiance, a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public input. Public input, then we'll move on to the Belgium Area Chamber of Commerce report.
I am Annie Nestor. As far as that just want to remind everybody on Friday night, we're going to have our second 100 minutes of memories. And it's going to be held at the firehouse. He's been very gracious to offer a lot of photos. So
Yeah.
We'll be able to do a PowerPoint. There will be this.
That's great.
Then we have our first Summer Nights Live on June 3rd at the park, and the second one we'll have is July 22nd. And then we'll only have two this summer because of Luxembourg Fest and the other fest. Just want to say, sorry to hear about Dale. Went to school with him. My favorite thing to say about him and Danny's brother, my cousin Pat Birnbaum, was Dale and Pat Birnbaum pushed and pushed in our class for Cedar Grove to have Belgium put in the name. Cedar Grove Belgium School.
Wow.
That's the deal. And I think that's such a cool memory.
I didn't realize that.
True.
They were pushers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They were clowns too.
Then we'll go on to number 7. Report of staff and committees. Danny, do you have an update on our stormwater street project?
No, that, I talked to Kevin last week on it. He's in the process of getting all the things from Soper Construction, and they're trying to figure out a pre-construction meeting, and he said an email probably would be maybe mid-June when he would be starting, so.
Okay. Then we'll move on to consent agenda items 8A and 8B. I'd like to make a motion to approve items 8A and 8B.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have no unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. 10A, accept 2021 audit report as presented by Wendy Unger of Baker Tilly. Wendy is on the screen up here, so it's all yours.
Wonderful. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me attend virtually. I really appreciate that. Hopefully in your packet of information, in addition to your financial statements and the reporting and insights document, you also have a, I believe it's a 4-page handout that is landscape. That is the document I will use to go through the other 2 documents. This is very similar to what you've seen in the past. And again, it presents at a very high level the financial results for the year. So beginning on the first page, the audit results, the objective of the audit was to render an opinion on the financial statements for the village. We've done that. Excuse me. We've done that, and included within your audited financial statements is a clean, unmodified opinion. That's the best level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditors. That is the same type of opinion that you've received in the past. That clean, unmodified opinion means that the financial information contained within your audited statements is believed to be materially accurate. All the disclosures that are required to be included under the standards have been included within your financial statements. We follow generally accepted accounting principles, and accounting principles have been consistently applied from year to year. For 2021, there were no new governmental accounting standards or GASBs. So that's a good thing. And in a moment, we'll talk about a new one that will be applicable for 2022 for the village. One other comment I just want to make before we switch over to the next page, which is the summary financial information, is that the opinion document included within your audited statements does look and feel a little bit different than what it looked like in previous years. There were some new standards that were issued during 2021 that required the format, the opinion, to change. So if you're an individual that likes to compare current year to prior year, it will look and feel different, but the information is all in there, just in a different order. Turning to the next page, this is where I've highlighted the various governmental funds of the village. I'm going to give you some page numbers as I go through this. This information is contained in much more detail within your audited statements, and therefore you could look at those at your leisure. The first column included on this page is your general fund. This is your day-to-day operating fund. This is included on page 43 in a budget to actual comparison. So when we look at the general fund, we want to look at where did you think you would end and where you actually ended. So the column presented here is the actual results for 2021. When we look at your revenue and other financing sources category, $1.56 million of revenue, that compares to a $1.31 million budget. So you were over budget within your revenue category by roughly $250,000. That is a positive result. The main reasons for that, one of the largest contributing factors to that is you had borrowed, you had some debt proceeds during 2021, roughly $212,000. That is not something you budgeted for. So that shows your revenue over budget. You had also received some additional reimbursement from water and sewer to the tune of roughly $13,000, and then some miscellaneous type activity, sale of equipment, and reimbursement for the light pole that was hit that equated to roughly $28,000. So those, again, were the reasons for the overage in revenues. In your expenditures, $1.25 million of actual, that compares to a $1.32 million budget. So you were under budget in your expenditures in your general fund by approximately $70,000. Again, a favorable end of the year result. Couple reasons for the expenditures being under budget. Snow and ice control was a little bit over budget, but the other various areas within the DPW category, streets and garage, street projects, those were under budget by roughly $44,000. And then within your park fund or your park category, wages were $15,000 under budget. So those are the largest portions of that under budget. So overall, when you put together your 2021 budget, you budgeted to use a little bit of fund balance, roughly $5,000 of fund balance. You actually added $313,000 to fund balance for 2021, leaving your general fund with $803,000 of fund balance as of the end of the year. As you can see on the handout, I broke that out in the various components. There's a small portion that's non-spendable. The restricted portion, $313,000, that's your park impact fees, unspent borrowed money, which is roughly $185,000, your tourism, and your stormwater fund. Those four items together equal the 313. And again, the largest portion of that is the 185,000 of unspent borrowed money. You've assigned 64, almost 65,000 of fund balance. Those are monies that have been earmarked for equipment needs within the general fund, and also for a debt service payment of $43,000 for 2022. The remaining balance, $420,000, is your unassigned category. That's your contingency working capital. That represents roughly 32% of your operating budget. So a very solid financial position as of the end of the year. The next column is your TIF 4 fund. This is found on page 44 in a budget to actual comparison. This fund, when you put together the 2021 budget, you budgeted to add roughly 347,000 to fund balance. This fund in total was very close to that. $315,000 was added to fund balance. Revenues, $847,000. Good portion of that is your increment. Also some additional reimbursement on the New Luxembourg Phase 3 project for engineering costs. You had $532,000 of payments. This is your MRO payments. Again, added $315,000 to fund balance and had $771,000 as of the end of the year. Those monies are restricted. They can only be used for TIP purposes. And I believe in 2022, a good portion, if not all of those monies were used to pay down the remaining obligations. The next column is your American Rescue Plan. So this is your ARPA fund. Those are the federal dollars you received in June of last year. You'll note very little income here. Was a little bit of interest earned, but because you did not spend anything on of those funds, the amount is sitting in the balance sheet as unearned revenue. So there's $122,000 that's sitting there waiting to be spent over the next few years. You'll also get another tranche of that money in 2022. So just wanted to mention that. The next column is your debt service fund. This is on page 6 of your financial statements, $406,000 of revenue. Portion of that is taxes, $260,000. Remaining are monies that come in from the general fund and the TIF. You had $406,000 of principal and interest on village debt, had zero fund balance as of the end of the year. And this is very normal to see within a debt service fund, unless you're building reserves for a future balloon type payment or something of that nature. The last column is your capital projects fund, also on page 6 of your audited statements, $150,000 of revenue. Most of that is the transfer that comes in from your general fund for future equipment and future project needs. There was roughly $5,000 of investment income. You spent $26,000 during 2021, and that was on a portion of the John Deere Gator, the forklift, and then there was some work done on the park shelter design that was also included in there. So you added for 2021 $124,000 to fund balance and had $870,000 of fund balance within your capital project fund as of the end of the year. Turning to the next page, the last page of the presentation, the two columns that are presented at the top are your water and sewer utilities. Not a lot that I need to mention here. Customer revenues were down slightly in both funds, mainly within the industrial category in your water utility. Expenses in water were very consistent with the previous year, and the sewer saw a slight increase of roughly $11,000 over the previous year. I would say the main activity that occurred within these funds is in the form of capital contributions. So those are included in that top row. Within your water utility, you had $104,000 of capital contributions. And within the sewer utility, you had $242,000 of capital contributions. These are twofold. Within the water and the sewer, you had the contributions from the New Luxembourg Phase 3 project that were contributed to the village during the year. And then within your sewer fund, you also had some special assessments that get recognized as capital contributions for various projects that you have going on. So those are also included in there. So when you look at the change in that position, water increased by $180,000. This compares to a $112,000 increase last year. Sewer saw a $380,000 increase in that position. That compares to a $126,000 addition in 2020. Again, the main contributing factor to both of those increases is the capital contribution. As of the end of the year, the water utility had almost $1.3 million of cash. 175,000 is restricted. So roughly a 1.1 million of available funds And I believe those have already been earmarked for some future projects. Likewise, in your sewer utility, 939,000 of cash, of which roughly half of that is restricted. Most of that is your equipment replacement. The last item, excuse me, the last item that I've noted on here is the reporting and insights document. This is an additional document that we issue as part of the audit process. You should also have this in a final form. We really use this document to accomplish several different purposes. We communicate any comments or recommendations that may come up as part of the audit process. We share any material weaknesses that are noted as part of the audit process. And we also utilize it to have some required communication that we need to have with you, the village board and management. Similar to the past, we continue to have material weaknesses surrounding segregations of duties due to the size of the finance area not being able to achieve 100% of segregation within your payroll area, your utility cash receiving area also. We also have the material weakness because we, as your auditors, become part of your internal control structure for a period of time. We prepare your audited statements, and we also had some material journal entries that came up as part of the audit process. Those journal entries are on in a summarized format on page 9 of that document. The items that are noted under other comments and recommendations are best practices related to IT. These are consistent with what you've seen in the past. And then lastly, the required communication to those charged with governance, that begins on page 8 of that document. Again, that is our information that we need to share with you. Talks about accounting principles, talks about the various estimates that are included, has the table of material journal entries, but nothing that I need to draw to your attention there. Nothing included in there that you haven't seen before or anything that would be unusual. Last thing that I just want to mention, again, I started the conversation with the new governmental accounting standard of GASB that will be applicable for the village for 2022. That is regarding lease accounting. So we've already had some discussions during our draft meeting talking about the various leases that the village may have, and we'll work with management to make sure those are accumulated. What ultimately that standard does is requires those type of leases or any type of lease of a material nature to be recorded as an asset and a liability within your financial statements. So again, something that has been going on and has been coming down the pipeline for several years, and here we are. It got postponed because of COVID. So 2022 is the year, and again, as I noted, we'll work with management to make sure the village is prepared to implement that standard as of the end of 2022. Those are my prepared remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm also, if you have anything you'd like to talk about in detail, I am happy to have those conversations with any of you, so please feel free to reach out. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have now.
Anybody have any questions for Wendy? I guess no questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 10B, introduce and approve. I would like to introduce resolution number 05-22, authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed 1.8 million for street improvement projects.
So Pete, you may want to let Joe go through his presentation now about the financials prior to running through these resolutions.
Okay. All yours, Joe.
Thank you. Excuse me, Joe Murray, from the village's financial advisor from Mellors. You are going to be considering a couple resolutions this evening. This is to finance your 2022 capital improvement program. It's for both street improvements as well as some stormwater improvements. I handed out, I believe you received it in your packets, but I did hand out hard copies of a pre-sale report about kind of talk through this evening. As I said, the resolutions you have are initial resolutions in order to issue bonds. in Wisconsin, you have to adopt an initial resolution with not to exceed amount. Both resolutions say you're going to borrow $1.8 million for streets, $1.8 million for stormwater. You are not going to borrow that much, but that gives you the flexibility. If one half of that project comes in under, you can move it to the other side of the equation, if you will. So you are only going to be borrowing $3.095 million is the plan of GEO bonds. So like I said, the resolutions are drafted to give you the flexibility. If something comes in under, you can move it from streets to stormwater, from stormwater to streets. So that just wanted to highlight that. We are recommending, the village has not been rated in the past, so we are recommending that you continue to be non-rated. We don't think going through the extra cost process of getting a rating will help receive any better interest rates. So we recommend that this be a non-rated issue. This is recommended to be as a general obligation debt, meaning you're going to pay for it out of your property taxes. Being a general obligation and being secured by property taxes will get the lowest interest rates possible when you're by selling it. So we're recommending that you do it. You have plenty of capacity as a general obligation issue. So you have the capacity to do that, even though it's for stormwater as well. But these also do not generate revenues. So like, you can't generate enough revenue from your stormwater to pay for this project. So this, doing it as a general obligation will get you the lowest interest rate as possible. It has been structured to be at level debt service at roughly $220,000 a year for 20-year bonds. The sizing has also been reflects utilizing roughly $212,000 of leftover 2021 GEO prom notes. If you recall, last year you borrowed money. I believe it's water and sewer. Correct. Yeah. There is some leftover funds available, so we're applying those towards these projects to reduce the size of the issue. It also anticipates that the water and sewer portion of your 2022 capital improvement program will be paid for out of cash from both of those funds, and you're not borrowing for the water and sewer portion. They're very small, roughly $20,000 and $30,000 respectively. It also anticipates that, excuse me, in 2023 that you will be closing TID number 4 and applying cash, the surplus cash that you'll have when it closes to make the 2023 debt service payment. Right now, we are projecting that TID number 4 is going to close with a surplus of roughly $737,000. The village's share of that is going to be roughly $256,000. All holds true this year. You apply $210,000, try to be conservative, make sure that there isn't a hiccup this year. I don't anticipate there will be. So that will allow you to put that money to reduce the debt service tax rate next year to roughly $1.71. It's also reflects that last year the village applied roughly $43,000 fund balance to reduce the debt service payment. So if you didn't apply that $43,000, your tax levy for debt service last year, or I should say this year, would have been also $1.71. So it keeps that holding steady moving forward. The real impact of the additional borrowing won't be felt until 2024. Since you're applying, like I said, the TID number 4 surplus funds. Tax increase in 2024, however, will be roughly 60 cents and will go up to $2.35. Interest rates have been skyrocketing since the beginning of the year. However, they still remain relatively low. I can show you the last page, but since the beginning of the year, rates have gone up by 150 to 200 basis points. That's 1.5 to 2% throughout the scale. But we are projecting that the true interest cost for this borrowing would be 3.86%. So 20-year money for less than 4% it's a lot higher than when I stood here before you in the last few years, but it is still relatively low. I think probably the last page of the report will show you. This is the municipal index for the municipal market for the last 3 years. You can see it dropped. It's been hanging very low for in the trough of the ditch for a long time. But as you can see from the beginning of the year, it started to spike. We're not quite to where we were 3 years ago, but it's not anywhere near as low as we have been for the last couple. So you have to answer the questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions on this? Okay, thank you.
And I can tell you that the Bucks are losing.
Real nice.
So now can I introduce all three of them?
You can do them all at once if you want. yeah.
Okay, I'd like to introduce resolution number 5-22, numbers 0622, and number 07-22.
I move to approve resolutions number 05-22, 06-22, and 07-22.
Motions are made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
So I should have said I will be back on June 15th is when we'll do the sale, so we'll have good results.
Okay, thank you.
The Bucks are ready.
Okay, we'll move on to 10E. Introduce resolution 04-22, fee resolution update to add golf cart registration fee. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 04-20.
You should, if you introduce somebody else, should probably make.
Okay,
Oh,
go for it.
then I'll make the motion to approve resolution 422 or 4-22 fee resolution updated to add golf cart registration.
I'll second.
Motions are made and seconded.
No, we decided on $5.
This is basically saying we're gonna charge $5 a year per golf cart with inspection
Mhm.
by the village marshal. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. We'll go on to 10F. Approve stormwater management maintenance agreement for 300 Lakeview Drive with the contingent upon engineering review.
So, added, Kevin had emailed something over Friday afternoon of what their, they reviewed the plan and everything, their stormwater management plan. There's a few things they gotta change on that, so I don't know if you guys wanna wait until they change that, or,
Is there any rush, Danny? with this?
well, it's a little bit of a rush because, you know, they started doing stuff out there already, so. I would think, I don't know, if you wanna wait.
You want to make it contingent upon approval of the engineers?
Yeah, I think maybe if we could wait till next month, I really do, because there's a lot of stuff.
That's where I was going. I said, if the engineers say they should change stuff, let's
Yeah.
see them do the changes.
Yeah, I just think we should. I mean, we always get this stuff at the last minute, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, it's not up to us to fall all over ourselves.
no, you're talking.
So somebody then could make a motion.
I move to table the approval of the stormwater management maintenance agreement for 300 Lakeview Drive pending amendments by the engineers.
Second.
Motion's are made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. 10G. Here it's to approve to allow U-Haul business to operate at 129, 139 Main Street with suggestion from our attorney to delay enforcement action to afford property owner an opportunity to promptly obtain a conditional use permit.
Well, let me give you a little background here. When I saw the amended agenda on Friday where it says approve a waiver of zoning requirement, I called Julie and I said, what's going on? Well, I should take one step backward. The coffee shop, I think, right? In the little strip mall where the subway and whatnot is, wants to run a U-Haul business. Well, we started running a U-Haul business without checking on zoning. Okay, it's not allowed in the B2 district. You can get a conditional use permit for it. So I told Julie, we just can't waive enforcement of our zoning ordinance, and we can't just say, oh, never mind, it's okay. Okay, what we can do is say, we'll delay enforcement and give you a chance to come into compliance. And Vicky contacted me this morning and said, not only are they running it out of the coffee shop, but they got trucks parked in the dentist office, they got trucks parked in the mini mart, right?
Yep.
So now they're operating on 3 properties that they don't have permission to operate on. So I think the best we can do right now is the language I gave Pete is agree we'll delay enforcement as long as they promptly seek a conditional use permit for that one property, but they can't be going all over the place with this stuff. You haven't talked to anybody, Vicky.
No, and Julie strongly encouraged that somebody come here tonight, and apparently they opted not to. So, you know, you guys are not required to do anything. They were requesting that we allow them to continue operating until they meet with Plan Commission, but it's entirely up to the board whether you want to take any action or not regarding this.
And even if you don't take any action, we can wait, okay? Normally I would get your permission before we obviously sue anybody. So you know, maybe we just kind of slow walk the thing and see where we are next month. Now, if they haven't come in for a conditional use permit application, and by then.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the longer they drag their feet is the longer we're gonna have that unsightly mess over there.
Well, if Vicky's willing to do it or have Roger contact them and say, hey, you know, get those trucks out of that dentist office, get those trucks out of that mini mart. You know, you said you want to run it here, run it here. Otherwise, they're going to need 3 conditional use permits,
Right.
which I'd be skeptical they would get.
Which is not very likely.
Who's running?
I think it's the lady running the salon, right?
You know,
Trina.
I'm not sure who is doing what. Both Freddie Gill is involved as the owner of the property, as well as Trina Klimetic, who is renting the property from him. I'm not really sure. I think that Freddie is more involved in this because he's been trying to do it. He tried to do it earlier, one other time, I think, at the mobile, and kind of dropped the ball on that, but we really don't know. Trina is the one who is renting the property. So, and that's the one that has expressed an interest in getting the conditional use. But Freddie's been in here talking to, so I don't.
There's a lot of hands in the pot.
There
seems
are
like.
more than one hand, yes, in the pot.
Yes.
What prompted this is Julie sent, somebody noticed that they were running this business.
Mhm.
And so Julie sent them a letter saying, hey, you can't do that. You need to get a conditional use permit. And I guess that's when they came in and said, well, can we keep running it until we get a conditional use permit?
Well,
And they must not have much interest if they didn't show up tonight.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
so do we hold off and wait until,
Well,
till the
I-
next planning commission? They have to come to the planning commission, right?
Yes,
And I don't know if I assume it's on the agenda for the planning commission in 2 weeks.
There's no.
Well,
But again, there's gonna be issues with the property. They're gonna have to pick which property they actually want to operate off of, because right now they're doing 3.
I don't believe we have a plan commission meeting in the month of May because that's Memorial Day. But
If there has to be one, I believe it gets moved to Tuesday then.
okay,
But I will follow up with Julie on that.
okay,
well, you know, suing, I think, is a little extreme at this
Right.
juncture. However, I am very, very unwilling to just let them skate by with,
Another month.
yeah, exactly. I think some enforcement has to be done now. But what level that is,
Could we tell them just, no, you can't run the business?
Until you come in and get the conditional use permit.
We can tell them that, didn't they say to Julie though, oh, golly gee, you know, you can't, you know, U-Haul won't let us stop and start or something like that?
Well, and unfortunately, Julie.
yeah, exactly. That's
Surely
my,
that's not my problem.
it's not our problem.
That was Fred's concern, but then U-Haul directly, somebody called and talked to her about it. And they're the ones who requested whether the village would allow them to continue operating while they got this resolved. He was the one who indicated he was going to be here, but he is not here, so. And that was not Fred or Trina, that was somebody from U-Haul that contacted her, so. And by the way, planning commission is not Memorial Day is the week after.
Yeah, we tried one Mondays.
Are you talking the 23rd then?
Yes, the 23rd is not Memorial Day. Memorial Day is the 30th.
I was wrong.
Well.
Okay, then, I mean, that's
if
only 2
Vicky
weeks.
is willing to do this, unless it's Roger.
I can talk to Roger and have him go and talk.
Yeah, I would have Roger tell them, if we don't see an application for a conditional use permit in time for the May 24th meeting, that they're gonna have to stop operating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't stop, you know, we have to do something about it,
Right.
and that takes time anyway.
Right,
Oh,
but here,
Gets the ball
yeah,
But I guess to do nothing doesn't get us anywhere either, because
Right.
we're gonna have the same conversation.
yeah,
30
this,
days from now.
this whole thing, I mean, far be it for me to squelch of anybody's business dreams, but this whole thing just does not set well with me, so.
So as I said to Vicky, there's the old saying, easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're doing here, you know. Oh, we'll just start operating and then we'll see how it goes.
And how long have they been operating? For a while, I
Well,
think, because
I don't remember all the details, but I believe already last summer, Freddie had U-Hauls at the mobile, and then I believe that Roger or Julie contacted him and said, you can't do this without a conditional use permit. And then he stopped for a little while, but he must have continued trying to work on it and then made the deal or arrangements with the coffee shop operator.
And that's even more concerning because then he was told a year ago that he needs to do this and he still doesn't.
Right, and he did cease though at
Yeah.
that time.
Okay.
So he, you know, I don't know if he assumed a different property had different rule. I don't know. I haven't been involved in those conversations, so.
Julie sent him a letter on April 28th.
Correct.
How does the dentist office
This year?
feel about
This year.
having these
I
things parked?
We don't know if they've asked permission to park the vehicles there or not. Maybe they have and they're fine with it. Maybe the dentist office just didn't want to put up a fuss about them being parked there because they don't care, but you know, either way, they're not allowed to have them there for the same reason.
like Dan said, Freddie knows what he's doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's-
well, and then that makes sense though, because if he stopped and now he's not allowed to start up again, now he's getting her to do it.
Yeah, it's very.
Well, I mean, I don't
Phone's
know,
strange.
again, I don't remember the details of it. I just remember it came up last summer for a very short period of time, and then they were gone, and then they were back. So, you know,
well, and it's very disconcerting that she rents a property that he owns. How much of a true free agent is she in this process? So
Well, and that it is entirely possible that he made a deal with her.
Mhm.
You know, I'll give you a breakdown.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
I was concerned about a deal than I am about a coercive situation. so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that he has any power of coercion over her. I'm thinking if anything, it was more, you know, I think he wants to use the mobile parking lot. It used to be the mobile Los Tacos property to put most of them. But he doesn't have anybody in there during enough operating hours probably to operate. So that's maybe why he chose to go.
And again, that's on him
That's
as a
his problem.
businessman.
Exactly, I'm just speculating why maybe he, you know, she has more expanded hours of operation, maybe that's as simply why he's doing it that way. But I do believe that he was contacted last year about this, because I remember that the trucks were there, the discussion came up about it not being allowed, and then they were gone. So,
Well, then I guess I'll move to delay enforcement until they come in by the next plan commission meeting to get all their paperwork in order.
I'll second that.
They're not going to get a conditional use permit at the May meeting because we'd have to have a public hearing notice published. and things.
Well, they have, I'm meaning
But
like
at
get
least
their,
to get the process
right, yeah,
started.
get their, sorry, I said that.
Well, maybe not. Maybe I misunderstood. what
Yeah.
you said.
But no, they have
I
to
just-
get
I
their,
just wanna be
they have to
clear.
have their paperwork in
They
order by
wouldn't
the
be able
next
to get
time.
it finalized.
No, right. Right.
So from here, we can put it on the plan commission agenda for in 2 weeks.
Well, if you get an application, I mean, right now,
Right.
there's nothing to
Okay.
talk about.
I don't know if they formally completed an application or not. I did not tell.
If there's no application, we shut them down.
Then I'd say by the
I
planning
would say
commission.
that we
Yeah,
send Roger.
absolutely.
over to Stop.
I motion to do that. What you
Again, you
said.
don't have to
Okay.
actually take any action. You
Okay.
can simply say that you are not going to take any action on this petition.
Yeah, nor are you going to officially
Right,
say it's okay what they're doing.
yeah, it's not okay.
Is there a motion and a second?
Yes,
Okay, so if you want to approve Rosie's motion, you would say yes. If you do not want to and want to change your motion to say not take action or whatever, then you would want to not vote. in favor.
oh, so we're not gonna take
I
action.
don't know what you're gonna do. I'm just saying that because there's a motion and a second, you have to vote on it. And that doesn't mean you have to approve it. You can vote it down and then change your motion if you choose to do
Or you
that.
can withdraw your, vote,
Or you
I'll
can
withdraw my motion.
and Rose withdraws her second.
I withdraw my second.
Okay, we're not gonna do anything
You wanna Make a motion?
to adjourn.
No, to not do anything.
I make a motion to not do anything about this.
About what?
The,
not take any action regarding U-Haul.
Yes.
And their request for a waiver.
and the request for a waiver.
Yeah, I'm still not satisfied. I don't think that they should be able
To run the
to run
business
the
until it's
business until
approved.
they get the permit. There should be a cease and desist over there until they come in and get the permit. And obviously, they don't care that much, or they're thumbing their nose at us because nobody showed up tonight.
Mhm.
That's another course of action, is we can move the issue an order to stop.
Well, I'll do it then. I move that we issue an order to cease and desist business until the approved documents are in order.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made in second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Oppose? Motion passes. So now will you send a notice to them?
I believe it would be best coming.
Yeah, I
from
gotta
Jerry.
prepare something, and then we gotta figure out how to serve it on.
Okay,
Some kind of a notice of violation and order that gets prepared. We've been down this road before, not with these guys, but other people.
Yeah.
we've
It'll-
been,
It'll
been
take,
on the road
it'll
with
take a
these
few
guys,
days
too.
anyway.
Yeah.
to get that
Jerry,
out.
will you prepare a document for all three properties then? Because technically they're all three in violation right now.
Yeah, maybe we can have somebody go out and look.
They have signage on the property that
I wasn't.
The coffee shop is on, and then the vehicles are on the
Yeah, I-
properties on either.
I drove around
side.
the block before I came here. I saw two of them parked on the dental property. I didn't really see anything by the mobile.
They're by the pumps.
Yeah,
They're-
Or any of them look over.
Yeah, they're all in the pumps.
Big trucks in there.
Obviously, I wasn't looking in the right place.
Yeah.
You're gonna put it in a gas station?
Okay, yeah, then I think we do, because all three properties are in violation.
Well, I feel bad for the dentist.
I'm sure they'll resolve it quicker than either of the others.
Okay, so you'll send a document to Julian and, or to Vicky this week?
Yeah, we'll figure out how to do it and how we get them served. I don't know if, we gotta figure out if Roger take that. I can't remember how we did it the last time. Or if we had the sheriff take it, maybe, I can't remember.
Either Roger or Sheriff or, I mean, Leon probably would want to do that.
No,
Yeah,
I
I think
think
he's as process for the sheriff's department, he could probably.
Yeah, I know Ron real well.
Yeah, he would probably have no problem with that.
Oh, no, I know he'll do it if we ask him.
Sure.
Just a cost involved. And then we try that.
We'll find it in the budget.
If we can afford you, we can afford that.
Yeah.
I look at the process.
No. Well, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.